Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bianca Denham. We're going to be getting started on our scripts and dialogues training. This is week number 3, and we're going to be getting into open inspection callbacks. So thank you, Bailey, for putting your screen on. You beat me to the punch. I would love to see your faces. I'd love to hear your voices. I know you're all really a very handsome bunch. Thank you, Stephanie. You're looking fabulous today. If you could put your cameras on, I would love that. Keep yourself on mute until you have a question. I know it's hard. Sometimes you might have been in your tracksuit pants all day if you're in New South Wales or Victoria. It's hard to find the motivation. Jackie, Jacob, there you are, looking absolutely wonderful. That's how we like to do our online learning, if we can, please. So we're going to be getting into open inspection. So open inspection callbacks, we're breaking into 2 different sections. We're going to have our first session today, which will be all about getting the dialogue correct, getting what we need to populate our vendor report. So this session is actually going to be taking in a little bit of, we're going to be doing a bit of stock management. So we have to touch on that if we're going to get this dialogue correct for this part of the OFI callback. And then our next session in a couple of weeks, we're going to start going into leveraging the opportunities. So we'll be looking for how to get appraisal opportunities, loan market opportunities, property management leads. But we're going to look at those next week because there's a lot to go from these open inspection callbacks. No doubt they are the most verdant phone calls that we can make. Hopefully everyone can see my presentation. Just a thumbs up if we can see the presentation, scripts and dialogues. Thank you very much, guys. That's great. Okay, so we're going to start rolling through the content. As I mentioned, this is the 3rd session. If you do want to know about any of the first 2 sessions that we've done, we did a preparation session with the one and only Kelly Tatlow, who got us primed for making calls. Our session 2 weeks ago was all about gathering geodata, building database. And this is the rest of the content to come over the coming weeks. Every 2 weeks on a Wednesday at this time, we'll be rolling it. Things get more complicated session by session. So if you do want videos from the first 2 sessions, just hit me up. My email is bdenham@raywhite.com. So let's get into it. We've only got 45 minutes. If you've got any questions, please come off mute or go in the chat box. Love to see some more faces. Fiona, thank you for turning on your camera. I reckon we can get a few more faces on this call. Come on, Adrian. I reckon you can do that. Here we go. We're getting some more brave souls. Thank you very much. So, open homes. Let's start by how we collect the data in the first place. So it's really important when we're standing there at the open home, we're using either the Vault app or HomePass to capture the data so that it goes straight into the CRM. So these are the points that we're looking at taking: first name, last name. For those of you using those apps, you'll know it's better to start with a mobile phone number. Start with a mobile phone number. That will then bring up if that person is already in the CRM and you don't get any duplication. Email address, if you can. If it's a nice, quiet, open inspection and you have time, as much information as you possibly can. But this is where it all starts. So when do we do our callbacks? Are we doing them on the Saturday and the Sunday after we finish our opens? We're doing them on a Monday? Why don't we put that in the chat box? When do you do your open inspection callbacks? So Saturday Arvo from Bailey, absolutely smashing it. Stephanie's also doing a Saturday and after opens. So that would maybe be Sunday. What about midweek? Do you do them after you finish on a midweek? Is that a good time to call? Who's waiting till Monday? Show of hands. Or Tuesday, 2nd round on a Monday from Bailey. Thank you. Yep, Adrian's doing them on a Monday, 3rd round on a Wednesday. Great to hear. Okay, look. There's no right or wrong as long as you're doing them. I would recommend, if you're working in a high volume business, you're going to need to get a handle on some of those calls on a Saturday. Otherwise, your whole week will be blown out. I know some of you are meeting vast numbers of people at your open inspections. Some people will be seeing 80 people plus at an open. That's going to wipe out all of Monday and Tuesday. So if that's the case for you, you have to try and get onto these before Monday if you can. How many attempts? So Bailey told us he does 3 attempts. I think we need to be doing multiple attempts to call these people back, and we need to be documenting all of that activity that we're doing in the vendor reports. That's why I've said documenting it in the vendor report. And that would go like 18th of the 8th, 21, called back Ross, no answer, left voicemail. 19th of the 8th, 21, called back Ross, no answer, left voicemail, sent text. So every time you're working on anything to do with that property, put it in the vendor report, because that's how you can document all your hard work, and your vendor can be kept updated with all the activity that's going on. 10-day and sold call. Is anybody doing the 10-day callback? What is that? Does anyone know what the 10-day call is? Go off mute if you know what it is and you want to share. I'd love to hear from you. Arthur, put your camera on. I saw you for a brief moment. It was all too fleeting. Come back. Does anybody make a 10-day call? Okay, I'll tell you what the 10-day call is. I meet someone at an open this weekend. I follow them up on Saturday and Monday. And then 10 days later, so Wednesday next week, I'm going to give them another call. And I'm going to say, hey, how's house hunting going? Have you found anything yet? What's the point of the 10-day call? Does anyone want to have a stab at that one?
See if they've purchased anyway.
Great, Jacob. Thank you. What else can we do with that 10-day call? You got anything more?
Yeah, get all their information about where they live, or do they need to buy or sell or rent, or whatever the case may be.
Perfect, perfect. See if they're still looking, see if they've bought. Jacob said it, see if you can get any more information out of them. So, you know, at the moment, if you're a buyer looking to buy a home in almost any market, it's quite challenging. You're having to speak to lots of real estate agents, and you're probably getting quite fatigued at talking to them. And so you might be a little bit withholding on giving up your personal information. So that 10-day call, it's building more rapport. Look, I would suggest you're going to have to be selective with some of these people. These are people really who we know live in our core markets, preferably. Maybe they have some geo data that we're trying to get hold of. Maybe they have a home to sell, we suspect. So if it's a renter and you've already unlocked the loan market referral opportunity and you've ascertained that they don't own any other property, maybe we might not be spending too much time doing 10-day calls, but a 10-day call is a great rapport builder, building trust, showing that we're one of the agents who's actually going to help and come back. So that's the 10-day call. And then sold call is pretty obvious. When the property sells, going back to that same group of people, hey, Jacob, just letting you know, 10 Smith Street, I know it wasn't for you, but we have now sold, wanting to keep you updated. Hey, by the way, how's your real estate journey going? It's just giving us that extra touch point to build that relationship a little bit deeper. So that's a really good framework for you when you're doing your open callbacks. Make sure we're documenting everything. We're having multiple attempts to talk to people. If we don't get through, we put all that information in the vendor report, and we're trying to build in the 10-day and the sold call, especially early in your career. If you don't have a large database to talk to, it's a great way to start to build data. Michael, welcome. Thank you for turning your camera on. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So what I mentioned before, there's kind of 3 arenas that we need to cover off on when we do open inspection callbacks. So one of those, I've called it the vendor report, but it's actually really finding out if they want to buy the home, what they think of the home, you know, all of the feedback for the vendor on the vendor report. And then the 2 other arenas are we need to look after that buyer. So we service the buyer, and then we can service ourselves. We can leverage opportunities for our own businesses. So, and I really believe it has to be done in this order. Sometimes when I do dialogue training, particularly with newer agents, I will find the agent is just trying to jump straight to part 3. Hey, Julian, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Please keep your camera on. You're looking really handsome today. So what we need to do is not go, hey, you came through 10 Smith Street. By the way, have you got a house to sell? That's not going to land. They're going to push you back. They're going to say that's gross. Do you want my credit card details while you're at it? So we have to do it in the correct order. The first job is we have to service our vendor. The person that we've been engaged to sell this property for, we have to get them really great quality information so that they can make an informed decision, and we have to find any potential sellers. So that's what we're going to drill into today. Okay, so we're going to go into some dialogue. Our introduction is really similar to what we had last week. We know how to introduce ourselves thanks to Kelly. We need to be confident. We need to have a great tone of voice. We need to use our first name and our last name and the full name of the business. Good morning, Bianca Denham calling from Ray White Real Estate in any town. Then we go straight to the purpose. You came through the property there at number 10 Smith Street. I'm calling to get your feedback. Now, some people choose to template these questions, and I don't hate that. I think that can be a really great idea. So when you're doing your vendor report, you're doing these callbacks, I think in an ideal world, we've got that vendor report open and we're writing our notes directly into the vendor report so that we don't have to double handle. Hands up, who's doing that on the screen? Are we doing that? Are we going straight into the vendor report when we're doing our open callbacks? Yep, Bailey is. The rest of you are making me feel really worried. Okay, so we need to make, yep, Arthur is wonderful. Thank you very much. Make the calls, have the vendor report open, be typing the notes in so that we're not double handling at the same time. We've all got headphones these days. It's 2021. If not, get yourself some headphones. You need it. You're a real estate agent now. So are you interested in the property? Simple question. And you can pose that question in many different ways. You came through 10 Smith Street. Do you have any further interest in that one? Yes, yeah, we're thinking about it. Fantastic. Tell me more. Just get them to talk. You know, we're looking at a couple of different properties. It might be right for us. You know, no, it's not right for us. Tell me more. So just get them to talk. Get them to start to open up about what they like and what they dislike about the property, taking notes the whole time. It's really important if we can find out if they're looking for this property as an investment or for a home. Why do we want to know those, whether it's an investment or it's a home for them to live in? Someone's got to answer. How many people?
If it's a home that they want to live in, they've got a home that they're looking to sell.
Potentially they've got a home they're looking to sell. That's great, Jacob. Yep. What else? What if they tell us they're an investor? What does that trigger?
Property management opportunity.
Perfect. Different criteria, different needs, PM needs. It's also, Fiona, that's okay. The internet's bad. Yes, we will send you the recording. Just email me after. Absolutely. It tells us where we can take this conversation. It tells us how we can start to really help this person and give them great service. Tells us where we can leverage opportunities. It's also good information for the vendor report. Do you have a budget you're working with? This one is really important. Why do we need to understand what their budget is?
So you know where they're sitting with price. You know where they're, what properties to recommend, or whether they're suited to buy this one that we're selling.
On the surface, absolutely. So we can help to direct them to properties that are relevant to them, but there's another reason why. Now, Arthur might have come through my property and he might tell me that he's got a budget of $1.5 million. And then the property that I'm selling, he might be prepared to make me an offer of $800,000. If I put that Arthur makes an offer of $800,000 and then Jackie makes an offer at $750,000 and then Michelle makes an offer at $820,000, my vendor may turn around at some point and say, Bianca, you're attracting the wrong buyers. You're attracting buyers who are in the 7s and 8s. But by being able to give that context of Arthur has a budget of $1.5 million. However, for your home, his offer is $750,000 or $780,000 or $800,000. It shows that we are attracting buyers who have the right budget, or budgets even possibly exceeding where we're pitching the property, and it can help us to get around that feedback. Yeah, perfect, Victoria, you got that right on the head. So it's a really important one to get. We need to provide that context where our marketing is working really well. We're attracting buyers who've got great, healthy budgets. Is there a price you'd be prepared to pay for the property? So I'm just going to give you, who wants to do a role play with me? Who wants to be, what can you be? You can be the agent and I'll be the buyer. No, someone can be the buyer and I'll be the agent. Who wants to do it? Who wants to be the buyer? Arthur, you're off mute. Is that you?
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I'll do it. No problem.
Wonderful. Okay, so what I want you to do is, you're a buyer. You've come through my property. It's not right for you. Okay, it's not really right. You don't hate it, but you didn't love it. And it's kind of roughly in your price range. Okay, so Arthur, you came through the property at number 10 Smith Street.
Yep.
I'd love to get some feedback. Thank you very much. Do you have any interest in this property at all?
Look at this now. I didn't really like the floor plan. Doesn't suit our needs. I'm still thinking about it, but at this stage, no, I've got a few others I'm more interested in. I'll concentrate on those other ones for the moment.
Okay, fantastic. So not quite right for you. The floor plan's not quite right. I understand it's not right for you. What do you think it's worth?
I'd say 1.1.
What, you think it's worth 1.1?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just not right for you.
No, it's just not right for me. It just doesn't suit my needs.
Great, thanks, Arthur. Well, look, we'll be in touch and let you know about other properties. I'm just going to pause there. Thanks, Arthur. That was great. So that is a very typical open inspection callback. He doesn't want it. It doesn't suit his needs. But I asked him what he thought it was worth. It was worth 1.1, right? So in the vendor report, I put, he thought it was worth 1.1. Is that right? Is that what I should do?
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, all right. So now when my vendor sees that report, they've got evidence that their home is worth $1.1 million, haven't they? Okay, maybe I shouldn't be giving them that evidence. I'm going to do it slightly differently this time. Who wants to role play with me? Same scenario. Who wants to role play with me this time? Okay, Jacob, you're up. So same scenario. Just what Arthur said before. It's not right for you. It doesn't suit your needs. You're going to keep looking. So we'll do it again. Jacob, thanks for coming through. You saw the property at 10 Smith Street. Do you have any interest in this home?
No, it's not for me.
Not for you. What wasn't right for you?
We're looking for a bigger home,
Okay.
more yard space, and yeah, a bit more newer, I suppose the right word is. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, I understand. Yeah, this one probably isn't any of those things. Look, do you have a budget that you're working with for the right home?
Yeah, willing to pay up to 1.5 for the right home.
1.5, fantastic. Okay. Now, obviously, I understand you said that this property isn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would there be any price, factoring in it's not big enough, you would probably need to do a renovation, maybe an extension. Would there be any price that you would be prepared to pay for this home?
No.
So, like, you've got 1.5. Let's say, for example, you could pick this home up under $1 million. You wouldn't have any interest at that price?
No, if I could get it for 500,000, that would be a great deal.
Okay, Jacob. So 500,000 is the number that you wouldn't walk away from.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, what I'll do, I'll get a letter of offer sent out to you. I'd really love to get that offer written up, and I'll get it in front of my vendors and see how they respond.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Okay. So very, very different. But in the scenario with Arthur, I would be setting a precedent in my vendor's mind at 1.1. Okay, I've left out some key information about where it's worth, etc. Whereas with Jacob, I've pushed him to the figure that he would be prepared to pay. Now, you all laughed when he said 500,000. And that's really interesting because most agents in that situation would probably do the same thing. And if I laugh at Jacob, is he going to write that offer up? No, because I'm saying, go away, you loser, you got no chance. Like, this is just not going to happen. And this is where we start to move into stock management territory. Now, I know that most of us aren't having to manage too many vendors over their price at the moment, but this process will still mean that you have better campaigns even in a boom market. You'll have more bidders at your auctions, and you'll have more happy vendors who are ecstatic with the result. So what we need to work in is not what someone thinks it's worth, because Arthur gave a really typical response. I'm not interested in the home. I actually don't really care. You've got it listed at 1.1. Yeah, it's probably worth it. Someone will probably pay you that. This is the kind of dialogue you'll get. Look, I'm sure for the right person, they'll probably pay you roughly what you're asking. It's just not right for me. But if we take the approach of there must be a price that every single person would pay for this property and find out what that price is, we can start to deal in a currency that our vendors are really going to pay attention to, and that is offers. You may have heard me say this in the past. One of the bits of feedback that we get when properties are withdrawn, when they didn't sell, is when we didn't have any offers. Like I thought we were going to get an offer. We didn't even get a low offer. Now, 500,000, that's going to be probably met with a little bit of objection from your vendor, but it's an offer. It's a real offer from someone who is willing to buy the property at that level. Now, you may have noticed when Jacob suggested the offer at 500,000, I actually got a little bit excited. I don't know if you heard that in my tone of voice. I said, 500, okay, so 500 would be what you'd be prepared to write up. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get you a letter of offer, I'm going to send it out, and then I'll put it in front of my vendors. Now, have I given Jacob any impression that he's going to buy the home?
No.
Have I told him he's going to buy it? No.
No,
I've just
no.
told him I'm going to get his offer written up and I'm going to put it in front of my vendors and come back to him. There's been no lying. There's been no false hope. Just, you know, what would be the price that you couldn't walk away from? So essentially for our I'm actually going to move into some technical stuff now around why we do this. And this is where it's actually really important. I would consider open inspection calls to be a kind of advanced phone call, because there's opportunities that you need to leverage, but you need to know where to get the feedback. I sat with a principal today who gave me the example, this exact example, new sales associate working for him. She took the feedback. Oh yeah, they think it's probably worth maybe high fours and they need to get their vendor below 450. That was just a non-thinking neighbor. Yeah, it's probably high fours. I'm not interested. I'm not your buyer. I'm just passing by. And she didn't do any further vetting. And so now all the vendor can think about is 480 when they need to be thinking 440 or 430. So I'm going to move on now. Does it matter what the price is? So has anybody seen this board before? It's called stock. It's a screenshot from what we call stock board. Some of your business, just in the chat box or raising hand, is anyone using a stock management tool like Stockboard or Green and Black Board? Is anyone doing that? Yep, Stephanie is, fantastic. So you're doing the green stock, black stock thing, Stephanie? Yep, wonderful. Yeah, Bailey's doing green and black. Anyone else? Okay, when the market swings, you'll be talking a lot about stock boards. But what I wanted to talk you through here was what this means and what it means in context of these conversations for your vendor report. So we've got some properties up on the screen, 31 Fisher Street in Balaclava. Let's look at that one. I'm just going to read the, it's not in Vault, it's actually stockboard.raywhite.com. You should be able to jump into it. I think as the agents on the listings, you can actually amend the prices and stuff in there, but I'm just going to talk you through what it means. So look at 31 Fisher Street in Balaclava. So our vendor on that property wants $240,000. I know for you, for some of you, these numbers will be like ridiculously low, but it worked. The calculations still work. The team price on that one is $225,000. So the agent on that piece of stock is saying that property is worth $225,000 any day of the week. So we've got a vendor who's already $15,000 above where we need to be in the selling zone. And then we've got another column there which is saying interest. So for those of you who are good with your quick maths, you will have worked out that that interest level is automatically 10% below the team price. So for those of you for whom this is a new concept, this is how we run the stock boards. Who wants to tell everyone on the call what the interest level means? Does anybody understand what that means? Stephanie, Bailey, you're running these processes in your office. Does anyone want to explain what interest level is about? No one's brave. Okay. So some people think interest level is where, thanks Bailey, feedback and offers need to be around the interest level to educate the vendor. Perfectly put. So the interest level is not you reporting to the vendor what people have been saying. It's actually an instruction. Okay, particularly in the early part of the campaign, it's very important that you are paying close attention to what the interest level says. So let's just say, for example, 31 Fisher Street was just launched and we're having our first open inspection this weekend. These were the numbers. My vendor wants $240,000, but my job is to go and produce offers at $202,500. How do you feel about that, guys? Does anyone feel challenged by that concept? Does anyone not understand why we would do that? Or does anyone feel like it feels like the wrong thing to do? Okay, let me give you some context as to why. So Bailey said before, it's to educate the vendor. The interest level does two things. It enables you to provide context for your vendor so that when the right offer comes along, the vendor is ready to accept it and recognize it as the right offer. But it's also a safety net for you. It's a safety net for the agents. So what you'll see, any of you who've run these stock boards, green and black boards, over time, usually what happens in a normal market, so I know, caveat, it's not happening in a lot of your markets at the moment because the market's still really rollicking along, but in a normal market, it's always the case that the vendor wants to get the absolute premium price, and a lot of the time we have to maybe bring them down on their price expectations somewhat. But also what happens is sometimes the agent has to adjust their price. And often the agent can be the ones that get in the way of the sale sometimes. We could feel protective around our appraisal price. I appraised the property at $230,000. How can I recommend that they accept an offer at $200,000 or $210,000, or I know they'll never even look at it? But what the interest level offer enables you to do is determine where the market sees value. And I'll explain to you how that happens. If the property is worth $225,000, it would be easy for me to produce an offer 10% below that, wouldn't it? And put it into your own price point. If the property is really worth $600,000, I'm trying to get a 540 offer, that should be easy. So when we're having those conversations, like the one I had with Jacob earlier, if I can't whet people's appetite at that 10% below market value, like should sell any day at that price, it's probably an indication for me that my pricing is a little bit too high as well. So it's a safety net for the agent so that the agent doesn't start revealing prices that are too high before they really know where the market is. And it's a great way for the vendor to get context. So let me explain that context piece. Some of you who've heard me speak in the past will have heard me say that vendors want 3 offers. Doesn't matter, now you're all coming in from different parts of the country. Some of you are in cities, some of you are in regional areas, some of you are in really big cities and others in smaller cities. Different marketplaces apply within all of those geographies. But human nature is the same no matter where they are. People think when they sell their home, they're going to get the Goldilocks effect, you know, the small offer, the middle offer, the high offer. And you know, naively or not, they think, you know, that's the order that they're going to come in at. You'll try and tell them that won't happen. You can use stories, or, you know, your first offer might be your best offer. But if the vendor doesn't feel like they've really exhausted everything that the market can give, and they haven't had a really good example of offers and understanding that this offer that we're recommending they accept really is a great offer, you're going to struggle to get them to accept it. So it's really important when you're making those open inspection calls and you're asking for people's opinion on price that they align with the interest level as much as you can. Okay, at the moment you're going to be going, how do I actually stop them from exceeding the vendor's price? That's another problem altogether. But you've got to make sure, if someone is just saying, oh, it's probably worth, should sell for, you've got to get that smashed away and put it into terms of what they'll pay. You know, so if Stephanie said to me, yeah, look, it's got to be worth 240,000. Fantastic, Stephanie. Will you write that up? Oh, no way. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't even give you 150 for, you wouldn't even give me 150? Really? What would you give me? Oh, 120? I'm not joking. That is how the line of questioning has to go. So if you're not framing up people's price feedback in terms of what they're willing to pay, you're not doing your job correctly. So I'm just going to go back to that script one again. The screen on the right, you know, that type of dialogue. I understand it's not right for you, Jacob. It doesn't fit your needs. It's not big enough. But factoring all that in, like an extension, renovation, what would be the price you'd pay for this home? That's how you have to put it into that context. You'll sometimes find people who will say, Bianca, I wouldn't care if you give it to me. There'd be no price that I would pay for this property. Then that's what you put into the vendor report. I asked Kate, would there be any price that she would be prepared to pay for this home? And she said, when push came to shove, there would literally be, there'd be no price. We couldn't even give it to her. It's of no interest to her, but we need to really get that context around what someone would be prepared to pay. That's the best form of price feedback. If price feedback is presented as an opinion, it can come back to bite you. So I'm just going to move forward from here. This is actually some excerpts from a vendor report. I don't want you to read all the detail, but what we can see, I'm just going to read the bottom couple of lines. So from Peter, if they could afford it, they would have been prepared to pay $950. Their maximum budget is $850. Not interested, caps locks, lots of exclamation marks, and then the price opinion is $950. So what is the vendor seeing in that case? $950. The next one down, budget is 1.3. She believes the home would sell for $1 million. Not interested though, not interested. Price opinion $1 million. The vendor sees $1 million. Next one, they like the home, $1.5 million budget, thinks it's $1 million, but not really interested. So the vendor is seeing $1 million. That's what they're seeing. That's all they're seeing. Next one here, not ready to buy. Price opinion is $950, but not ready to buy. That's in caps lock, so you don't miss that part. Nadia is Rena's daughter, thinks it will sell for between $950 and $1 million, but she's not interested. And the price opinion there, interestingly, she's picked the higher of the two figures. So when we look at the details behind this property, this was actually the green black stock for this particular property. So the vendor wanted 1.1. The agent thought it was worth $1 million. And the interest level was at 900. So what was happening in that vendor report was the agent was trying to prove that their appraisal price of $1 million was correct. Can you see that? No one in that vendor report wanted to buy that home. Not one single, well, one did want to buy it, but they only had $850. So that feedback would have been much more valid if they had have said they like the home, they've got a budget of $850 and they'll make you an offer at $850. Not they'd pay you $950 if they had it. They don't have $950. So it's putting it into that context of when the vendor reads the report, they're just going to see the numbers that you put in there. Putting in caps locks with exclamation marks that they're not interested or that they can't buy it isn't going to undo the fact that the vendor has seen that price feedback at $950 or $1 million. The fact is, none of those people were prepared to make an offer on that property at those prices mentioned. So all this agent has to do now is try and backtrack and bring the vendor back from those prices, which are just frankly not real. Does anybody have any questions about that? I've just gone over like some pretty detailed stuff on stock management, which might be the first time some of you have heard that stuff, and it can be kind of challenging. Does anyone want to share any thoughts? No? Great. Okay. So just finishing up on the context of today is we need to really make sure when we're populating the vendor report, when we're doing our open inspection callbacks, and we're getting interest and price feedback that aligns to the interest level. Detail matters, and you've got to close all the doors to objections. And the closing of the doors is all around, you know, Robert, remember that person who said they had $1 million? Like they said they thought it might be worth, you know, $950 to $1 million. Where are they? Where are they now? If we'd have put that into clear context of what they would be prepared to pay, the vendor wouldn't be holding on to those people. So that is all of our content today on vendor report. Next week, we're going to go into leveraging all of the opportunities. So thanks, guys. It's been really great having you here. 2 weeks, same time, we'll be talking about how we can get some business back for ourselves. Have a great afternoon. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye.